Welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome back. I am Leah, and I am joined by Bonnie and Katie and Rebecca, and we are talking about our one cool animal thing. So Bonnie has already talked about Virginia Woolf, and Rebecca has already talked about Molly Beatty. Before we dive back in, let's get to know something completely random about our gal pals. So what I want to know is if you could have any pet, any animal as a pet, any animal whatsoever, mythic, real, endangered, too large for your house, what would it be? Dun, dun, dun. Everybody answer at once.
I know mine.
Oh, go
I
ahead.
know mine. I have a favorite animal at the zoo, at the Indy Zoo, that I always I could spend the entire time watching this animal, and it's the brown bear.
Oh, I do
him.
love that brown bear at the zoo. Yeah.
So I'm just imagining what fun we would have together. We'd just hang out. You know how he's always sitting in his water like it's a hot tub jacuzzi?
Yes.
We'd go swimming together and chill. And could you imagine cuddling at night?
Best cuddles ever. I mean, a little
Cuddle my
clawy,
big
but
brown bag. It's an imaginary thing. I don't have to worry about the claws in my imaginary thing.
Correct.
Yeah, so brown bear. as a pet.
Hibernate.
Brown bear.
Yes, we could do that together. I love that.
That would be lovely. I can
Right?
totally see that. Good one.
All right. What about you guys?
Besides all the dogs,
All of the dogs.
all the doggies. When I was little, I wanted to, because I was becoming a little Miss Science nerd. I wanted one of those albino rats for a while.
Oh.
Mom was like, no, it's a rat. And then after seeing Along Came Polly, I really wanted a ferret.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
I've got too much stuff. It would get into everything.
Yes, this is very true. I
I
had a friend that had a ferret.
pee in my they'll pee where they want unless they're very well trained. I had one pee in a backpack once, and I washed and washed. I had to throw it away.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
Sorry, ferret.
Oh, ferret. This is why we can't have nice things, ferret.
Mhm.
Rebecca, what about you?
Well, you threw a wrench into it by saying it could be a mythical animal.
Yeah, why not?
So my first answer was going to be because we're all kind of stuck at home, would be like a pregnant mama kitten or mama cat.
Oh,
So then when
babies.
she had her babies, I would be here to take care of them and give them all good homes and get them all taken care of and fixed and take one for myself.
There you
Maybe
go.
the mama and a baby, who knows? But only because because of our current situation, I wouldn't normally be like, I want kittens because I want to have my whole life wander or revolve around some animal that I'm going to be worried about 24/7.
Right.
But for the mythical, I think I'd have to go. I was almost going to say unicorn because those are my favorites too, but maybe a luck dragon because I'm a child of the 80s, and who doesn't love Falkor? And
Yes.
pretty cool. So I think if we could have a mythical dragon, scaly, fuzzy friend who has your back and lets you fly on him sometimes and just kind of hangs out in the backyard or wherever he lives. I don't know.
Sweet.
So,
See, that's actually it's really, really close to mine. Because my animal as a pet would be a phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
And I would name it River. So it would be River Phoenix. Because I'm an 80s kid.
Are you doing it just for the pun?
I am doing it also for the pen, but I'm also doing it because if I had a really sad day, I would go ride the phoenix, and then I would rise like a phoenix from the ashes, like the mythology and the everything, and riding a bearded dragon-like thing. So yeah, no, mine's totally mythical. I would have a river phoenix.
Love it.
An absolutely crazy wild animal. I love it. So I I have a really crazy, fun gal for you. My gal is a burlesque performer. She's a World War II spy. She had a pet cheetah, and she had a pet goat, and she had a pet pig. She is a lot of crazy fun. I'm basically talking about the Beyonce of her day, Josephine Baker. Do you guys know about Josephine Baker? I love the crap out of Josephine Baker. Oh, I'm so happy to actually finally be really talking about her.
Yeah, is this the first time Josephine Baker's been
on this show? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
I wrote a very quick article about her on Gals Guide, and I talked about her at one of the Saucy Gals meetings that we had in person. But this is the first time Josephine Baker's really kind of been in-depthly covered on the show. So for those who are new or would like a refresher of my crazy, lovely, lovely lady, Josephine Baker, she was born in 1906 in Missouri, and she had a terrible childhood. And I'm going to go right past all of that because we've already had enough doom and gloom, but it was terrible. It was little formal education. There was no indoor plumbing, always hungry, super poor, abused. She was homeless for a time, terrible childhood. She made money by dancing on the street corner at the age of 13. Her dancing led her to New York City during the Harlem Renaissance. Dun, dun, dun. She became an absolute breakout star during the Harlem Renaissance, and she landed an opportunity to go to Paris, France. She would say later, quote, "One day I realized I was living in a country where I was afraid to be Black. It was only a country for white people and not Black, so I left. I had been suffocating in the United States. And a lot of us left, not because we wanted to leave, but because we couldn't stand it anymore. And I felt liberated in Paris." Now, she was definitely liberated in Paris because she performed in a skirt of bananas and nothing else. Sometimes she had her pet cheetah that wore a diamond collar and nothing else. See what I did there? Oh, see. Does anybody know what her cheetah's name was? It has something to do with her famous skirt. Chiquita.
Oh, Cheetah.
So her pet cheetah named Chiquita was a gift from Henri Varna, and he was a club owner. And it was a male cheetah. Chiquita was in her act on stage, and the cheetah would actually freak people out because he would jump off the stage and into the orchestra pit and cause a little bit of a kerfuffle.
A baby?
No, I mean he wasn't full grown, but he was not a little cub. So yeah, the in between. So I mean he was deadly when she got him. But he wasn't geriatric at all.
He was in his prime.
He was definitely in his prime, as was she. But she really, really took to Chiquita. He slept in her bed, which her manager really did not like, which a lot of her lovers really didn't like either. But she didn't care. She would take Chiquita out on walks in Paris. Just down the boulevard, just
like you do.
Just a girl walking her pet cheetah.
If you had a cheetah in Paris in what was that, the 20s and 30s?
Right.
You take it on walks
every day
with the diamond collar and oh yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Oh, I thought it was perfect.
There's not taken on runs.
Right. Yes. No running.
No, maybe not running.
No running.
No.
I mean, I don't do that anyway.
Yes, exactly. I only run when chased, and that thing goes 60 miles an hour or whatever. So there's no way
Mhm.
that's happening.
Maybe with some roller skates, though, it might be a fun little ride.
I feel like I would die, but yes.
Probably. There's probably that. You probably go down a manhole or
I
something
mean,
on the
like
way.
dragged.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe we'll scratch that.
She
Never-
died
never
by
mind.
Cheetah. There's even a very famous tale about her taking her cheetah to the movies. It was the movie Queen of the Lost Continent. It was a writer of Harper's Bazaar who actually put it into the story that she was watching this movie, and it was about a woman who lived in this desert oasis, and she was surrounded by cheetahs. And then the lady looks down, and there's a full freaking cheetah in the movie theater next to Josephine Baker. And the lady's like, "Did you take your cheetah to see the cheetahs?" And she's like, "Yes, I did." And then she like got on her cheetah. Cheetah was on the leash, went into her limousine. Bam. Yeah, I know, right? That's a life.
I mean, you said she's the Beyonce. I think Beyonce is the Josephine Baker of
Yes, there's
our
that.
time.
Yes.
I think it's more. Even if people don't know who she is, they should know.
They should totally know. She's
They should know.
amazing.
Can I
Josephine.
also- can I
Yeah.
I also note that we need to bring back this time where you can just bring your pets to the movies
Right.
or play or orchestra with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Exactly.
come back.
I know. Exactly. I'm going with that comfort animal. You know what I mean? Whatever kind of documentation you need. If this is my companion comfort animal.
It's like the new social distancing is you have you and your pet, like
Absolutely.
in another seat, and then the next person and their
I like
pet
that.
and their seat.
Because that cheetah will socially distance me from the
yeah.
next person.
Mhm.
They get a whole row for just cheetahs. That's how that works.
Yeah, I'd be down with that. Well, Josephine had her own nightclub. It was Chez Josephine in Paris. So, I mean, Beyonce doesn't have her own club as far as I know. But in her nightclub in Paris, she shared a dressing room with her goat called Toot Toot. And it's spelled all French-like, but it's Toot Toot was her goat. There's a question of always like, did Toot Toot eat all of the gowns that were in there? But apparently
that's
Toot
what I
Toot
was wondering.
apparently would rummage on other stuff, but lived in her dressing room all the time. Like didn't mind it, didn't cause a kerfuffle at all. In the kitchen of the club was her pig Albert. So Albert ate the food scraps of the kitchen. So whatever was kind of like, left around, all that kind of, that's what Albert ate. Apparently he got so big though that they had to break down the kitchen door so that he could freely move around the building again.
Oh,
He got too big to leave the door. So yes, so she had her pig in her nightclub in the kitchen. Josephine did movies and she had successful records. Ernest Hemingway called her the most sensational woman anyone ever saw. I mean, that's saying something because he's not necessarily wrong. She was huge for her day. Very, very huge. A very weird fact about her that I just had to mention: 2 men dueled by sword, a sword duel, over her honor in 1928 in Budapest. Which, of course, made me think of the Marvel line from the Avengers movies. You and I remember Budapest very differently. And it always makes me wonder, they talking about maybe a Josephine Baker kind of like dueling with swords? I loved it. It was a very open secret that Josephine Baker was bisexual. There was a rumor in 1939 when Frida Kahlo was visiting that maybe the two of them were lovers, but it's still very much rumored. So take that as you will. But then World War II happened, and I gotta cover World War II-ness with Josephine because she's now a French citizen, and French declared war on Germany, and German citizens, though, were very smitten by Josephine Baker. Her burlesque shows were very popular pre-war in Germany. She would have all nude parties in Germany. She was very famous for them. So she was recruited by the French military intelligence to become a spy. Dun, dun, dun. It's very amazing how non-secretive people are when they're completely nude. They're not hiding much, let me tell you. So maybe that's a pro tip. I have no idea. But she would relay secret communications on sheet music. She would do an invisible ink on sheet music and say, oh, this is just, music for the band, for the performance, and nobody would really check it. She would also pin like secret information to the inside of her bra or the inside of her underwear because nobody was going to search her. She was a burlesque performer. If you ask her to take it off, she's just going to take it off, and you don't want her to in the middle of the airport. So, so she was sneaking information everywhere. And she was actually a sub-lieutenant in the French Air Force. So she had like a legit officer status. She was awarded, actually, she was the first American woman, because she was born in America, but she was a French citizen, but she was the first American woman to receive the Croix de Guerre, actually, which is a very prestigious military award. She also won the Medal of the Resistance as well. So, girl's awarded for her military service. After the war, though, things got weird. She toured Paris, and then she did tour the United States, but she did not put up with segregation. She's like, no, I'm not having it. I'm not doing this. First, it got her acclaim. Then it got her like serious criticism and some backlash. So in the 1950s, she was very active in the American Civil Rights Movement. She was refused reservations at over 36 American hotels because she was Black. Because in the South, she was giving talks and performances to non-segregated crowds. So hotels are like, not here. When she demanded that none of the audiences were segregated, the KKK threatened her publicly, and she said, I am not afraid of them. She like totally stood up to the KKK and was like, whatevs. In 1951, the NAACP awarded her Woman of the Year. She was there in 1963 on the March on Washington when Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. She was right there with him. The criticism in the United States included labeling her a communist. She was actually not allowed back into the United States for over a decade because of the backlash on her. But the rest of the world really didn't care, and they loved her. And she continued to captivate audiences and tour and live in France. She was BFFs with Grace Kelly. This was something I had no idea. Grace Kelly, the Princess of Monaco, who was in like a lot of Alfred Hitchcock films, stood up for Josephine when club owners in America were being racist. She also helped out Josephine when she fell on financial hard times, too. So, got to have a princess as a BFF, right?
It helps.
It doesn't it, though? Yes.
Yeah.
Now, it's reported when MLK was assassinated, this is my sad bit, Coretta Scott King asked Josephine to take her husband's place as the leader of the civil rights movement. This is according to Josephine. Josephine said after she thought it over, she declined, saying that her children were too young to lose their mother. By that point, she had 2 daughters and 10 sons, and they were all adopted. Her family had the nickname of the Rainbow Tribe. They were adopted from different nationalities around the world to prove that children of different ethnicities and religions could still be brothers and sisters. So, right? Yeah. So unfortunately, Josephine's story ends with her being found dead in a hotel room of a brain hemorrhage, cerebral, that's the word, margaritas. I'm going to blame margaritas on that one. They say she was surrounded by accolades of her last performance, though. So it was all these press clippings of how gorgeous she was and how fabulous she was and how enthralling she was. And that was probably the last thing that she saw. She was surrounded by love and acclaim. She was 68 years old, but she was buried with full French military honors, which is
Awesome.
pretty badass.
Yeah.
So it just so happens that the week that this airs on Monday. On Wednesday, which is May 20th, it is actually Josephine Baker Day. So, yeah, right? So a weird little, it's not her birthday. It's not the day she died. It's 1961, the NAACP declared that May 20th be Josephine Baker Day. So I don't know. I say find a banana skirt and a cheetah and do a little burlesque performance because you know what? Girl had it going on.
So wait, did you find out why that date, why they picked that date? Like, did she do something on that day? Or is that just
No,
the
it
day
was
that
like
they like honored her with their award of Woman of the Year or something? Or
that was
did it not even?
1951. And so what I was wondering is
Oh.
1951 was the Woman of the Year and then 1961 was the Declaration. And they talked about how she was gone for a decade from America. So what I wonder
Okay.
if it was a comeback tour.
Maybe.
So if that was the time that she was coming back and as a big celebration of a, coming back in a parade that they, like the mayor of wherever the comeback celebration was, probably did a dedication that particular day.
Yeah,
And it just happened to be that particular day. That's why it's not a birthday or an anniversary
Yeah.
or something like that. So
I mean, she deserves all the days, really. So
I know,
think
right?
it's fine to give her a day. So
Yes.
it could be today, and I'd be like, cool, it's Josephine Baker Day again.
I know.
All right.
I know. Exactly. I think she's absolutely amazing and one of those telltales of you don't have to be one thing. This girl was a burlesque performer, a singer, a dancer, a spy, an animal rights activist, a civil rights like you get to be whatever you get to be. Just do it.
And what did she? I'm trying to remember what she sang. Did she sing "The Times They Are Changin'"? I think she sang like a Bob Dylan song. I don't know if it was at the March on Washington. Yeah, it might have been part of like her later like 60s performances that she did.
It could be because Bob did sing "Times There Are a Changin'" on the in the 1963, so it could have been echoing that later on.
Maybe that's what maybe I was thinking that maybe I was like combining things. Maybe or because I think because there's a woman who does a one woman show. I think she's from I want to say somewhere in Florida, and she does like a one woman. She did it as like it was a fringe circuit show that she was doing.
Right, the Josephine show.
Yeah. Because she did it. I think it's called like I Am Josephine or My Name is Josephine or something, and she did it at the Indie Fringe Festival. I mean, she did like a bunch of Fringe festivals, whatever year that. It was like a few years ago, and then she came back to Fringe. Was it 2 years? Maybe 2 years ago.
I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
And it might have been part of Diva Fest, which is like all women playwrights.
Yep.
And it was like an extended version. It was like instead of this 50-minute Fringe version, it was like a 90-minute or 100 or something. And I think the actress sings it, but maybe she was singing it because Bob Dylan sang it, but I don't know. Like
it could have been a bit of both. I'm not sure offhand, but yeah.
You know, I could like talk about her all day because I just love Josephine Baker. Like she's awesome. And you know, and like it's funny, like I don't know when I mean, I probably first heard about her at some point, but I think what really got me interested in her was hopefully I'm not messing this up. I'm pretty sure I'm like 99.99% sure that in Triplets of Belleville, there's a dancer that's like an homage to her, where it's like the dancer's wearing like a banana skirt and like
that would make sense.
Fruit hat and dancing around, and there might even be cheetahs in the scene. I'd have to like look it up. It's been a long time since I've like seen it, but I remember that, and that was like what, like 2002 or 3 or something like that. And so probably around that time I was like, in my mind I knew the name, but I didn't know a lot about her. And so like over the years I've been like just enthralled by her. She's just so awesome. And there was a lot I didn't know. Like I didn't know her until I saw the one woman show. Like I didn't know like the whole like the spy part and the civil rights, and that she was like working up until, I mean, yeah, if she passed, would you say 68 is when she died?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So if she passed in 68, like she clearly was like, she was there like for a long time through the movement. And
oh yeah,
I mean, because of personal, you know, how she was personally treated, but But she could have just been like, you know what, I'm just gonna pack up my shit and go back to Paris and nobody cares. Sorry, I don't know if
Exactly.
we could cuss.
No,
I'm
you
just
totally can. Oh yeah, you
I
kidding
was
me?
gonna
Yeah.
go back to
Mhm.
Paris with my life and my kids and my cheetah and my whatever, and
Right.
forget about the U.S. But instead, she like kept fighting for equality, and that's not an easy thing, especially back in '63, and people were
Right.
getting
It gets you
assassinated.
hated and kind of banned, and yeah, and people were
Yeah,
getting assassinated around her too. Yeah.
and like it wasn't even, and like a lot of people, and yeah, it's just yeah, it's like just really, and like one thing too, I vaguely remember, like I think she and Paul Robeson were kind of on similar tracks. Like I think he was also big in Europe and would, and they, I don't know that they really worked together or it just
They
happened, but
definitely had to cross paths with the performance
yeah,
psychic, you know what I mean? The different venues and things like that. Yeah.
yeah, and like they were probably at the same like marches, but there's something about him in this, but I don't, yeah, I don't remember if he's like actually in the story. If it was just again, he was also
Yeah.
really, he had a similar, like he was a performer, but he was, even though he'd perform at certain places, like he couldn't spend the night in the same town
Yeah.
because of the sundown laws and all that
Hmm.
all that terrible shit that was, it's still
Yeah.
going on to some degree, just
Mhm.
in different ways now.
I
but yeah,
love
no, I
there's
love
even
her.
like other celebrity stories like the Nichelle Nichols. When Nichelle Nichols was a kid, she met Josephine Baker in
Oh.
her dressing room, and she said she was absolutely entranced. She said she left feeling like she was walking on butterflies, like that, just that
Oh.
feeling after being with Josephine with her little
Oh.
kind of, it's like a fake French accent because I mean she's
Mm.
American, but she spends a lot of time in France, and so she really plays up the French. So there's that, and I can't say this is absolutely fact based because I read it at one point and then I tried to refind it again, but Bessie Coleman
Mm.
went to Paris to become a pilot because
Mm-hmm.
women, especially African American women, were not allowed to get a pilot's license, but they were allowed in France.
And also a
Um,
Gal's Guide podcast, one of my
Exactly.
favorites.
Yes. And supposedly, while she was in Paris, Bessie Coleman and Josephine Baker met up, and Bessie encouraged Josephine to take flight lessons. Do not know if she ever got a pilot's license. Do not never know if she actually flew. Josephine was in the Air Force, but that doesn't mean
Mhm.
she was a pilot in a plane or anything like that. So, but I'm like, I love that connection.
Mhm. Bessie Coleman's another badass that you guys have covered, and I
Absolutely.
love that. That's one of my favorites. Like anytime she was actually, I meant to take a picture of it. I was at the airport in late February, and in the Southwest terminal, they had, or maybe not terminal, but like whatever the check-in area is called,
Mhm.
Right.
they had a wall dedicated to Black History Month, and they
Ooh.
had a picture of Bessie Coleman, and I wish I'd taken a picture just to send it to you guys, but
Ugh,
it
love
was,
Bessie.
I mean, there was, it was like a lot of, obviously a lot of other pilot related people, and some of them
Yeah.
were like, some were like professional athletes, and Martin Luther King, of course, and other civil rights leaders, but yeah, but to see Bessie Coleman's picture, I was like, oh, Bessie Coleman, I love her. So
Exactly. She's
it's
fantastic.
pretty cool to see like a real, like, like in real life, not just like internet or podcast.
Right.
So,
Yes. Did you guys have any other questions about Josephine Baker? Anything that I'm trying to think if I know.
It's all fascinating.
She's too fun. She's a
Yeah.
life goal right there. I don't even know if
Right?
that is a life goal. She's almost like an
Yeah.
unattainable life goal. It's like aim for it, but
yeah,
Mhm.
it kind of, you know what? It kind of ties into our mythical creatures conversation. Like
she's
she's just
kind of a mythical creature.
like
Yes.
she's beyond, like, yeah, because when you started with like, oh, she had like a really terrible life, I'm like, yeah, and like I think, I don't know that she was like forced into marriage, but kind of, because I think didn't she get married to
She got married
leave?
at 15, but it was a way, she thought it
It
was
was
a
like
way
a way to,
out.
yeah, like to get
Yeah.
into entertainment in New York or whatever, was like,
Yeah.
or
It
at
didn't
least to
work
get out of,
out. I mean, the marriage didn't work
um,
out and it didn't save her, but she thought, well, I'll
no,
get married and that will fix it. And
yeah, that's
she
like
got married like
that's
4
the option.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the young, because she, was it her second husband's name that she kept?
Yes. That's where the
Is that
Baker
right?
comes from, is her second husband.
Yeah, okay.
It didn't last that long, but she's like, but I kept his name
But
long.
it's a good stage name.
Hmm.
But no, I just, yeah, because that was something I was remembering too. Because it makes me just wonder like how much of it was like because she was kind of a product of her time. But then it's like no, because not everybody in that situation, like most people in most women in anyway at that point in time, in her situation, if they had married to get out of their current like home life, they
Mhm.
probably would have just ended up like having a bunch of kids. Maybe their husband would cheat on them or beat them or whatever,
Yeah.
and then they end up like not famous by
A new form of prison or
yeah,
exactly,
like they
right?
wouldn't end up as savvy and awesome as her life was.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's something definitely like special about her that isn't in everybody that
Yeah. There's a
in that situation.
spark of beautiful madness in her. Dig it. All right, sweet. Well, I shall wrap it up. That wraps it up for us this week. Join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool animal thing as Gal's Guide to the Galaxy podcast continues. Thanks for listening. For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gals Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.